Okay. Um, Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Millie's panel on everything Warwick Business School. My name is Summer. I'm in the 11th grade at the Chapin School based in New York City, and I'm going to be moderating our event today. For those unfamiliar with Millie, Millie works to connect international students with the resources they need to succeed in their academic and professional lives. Please follow us on Instagram at Millie_group so you can keep up with our weekly panels or check out our website to see past events and the schedule for future panels. Um, right now, we're going to start off with some of our prepared questions for the first 45-ish minutes, but we encourage you all to submit your own at any time, and our panelists will answer them afterward. Feel free to ask questions directed toward all of our panelists or addressed a specific one. And remember, we're doing this to support you, so don't be scared to participate. And yeah, okay. We're going to start with introductions, and we're going to keep them around a minute-ish. So can all of you share your name, where you're from, and where you live?
Mhm. Yeah, sure. So I'll start off. So I'm Zaid. Nice to meet everyone. I'm originally from Hong Kong, so that's where I was born. But I currently live in Leamington Spa, which is right next to Warwick University.
Hi guys, nice to meet you all. I'm Rishal and I'm currently a final year accounting and finance student at WPS. I'm from India and I currently live on the Warwick campus.
Hi guys, my name's Yusuf. I'm German and Iraqi, currently studying international management with finance at Warwick, and I also live in Leamington Spa.
Hi guys, pleasure to meet you all. My name is Mateusz. I study international management at the Warwick Business School. I'm from Poland, and yeah, that's me.
Okay, and to add on a little, can we get a fun fact about all of you?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So fun fact from me is well, I used to live in the Philippines, and while I was there, especially during COVID, I became a qualified scuba diver.
Whoa.
Wow. I really like collecting coins, so I have a coin album with coins and currencies from more than 30 countries.
Yeah, so as part of my course, I'm going abroad next year. Half of my year is going to be spent in Hong Kong and the other half in Michigan.
Well, I guess the interesting fact about me would be that I used to be a opera singer a very, very long time ago. And yeah, I used to sing in operas like Tosca or Carmen, so that was a pretty cool. Was a pretty cool time.
That's so cool with fun facts. Okay, these are more general get to know yous. Um, when did you decide on your area of study and how and why did you make this decision?
Yeah, I would say main decision was probably so I did the IB, the International Baccalaureate program, and I think it's when it comes to choosing your diploma subjects that you really have to look at what universities you want to get into because some have requirements, obviously. Um, and so I would say probably choosing subjects was around the time I was thinking of what I wanted to do, and subjects like business and economics really interested me. And so that's when I was considering a course in business and obviously work business school. And yeah, that's really the time I kind of started choosing. And what was the second part of your question, Summer?
How and why did you make this decision?
Why? I would say, I think the way I grew up. So my parents both come from finance backgrounds, and so it was kind of the household I was in, being surrounded by conversations like that, and also just having a strong interest. I mean, they brought it up to me because I originally wanted to do engineering. They said, "You're actually asking a lot of questions about business and stuff like that, and why don't you consider doing something there?" And that's when I did some research and found out it's very interesting. So yeah, that's really why.
Thank you.
For me, for me personally, I did the Indian qualifications and I majored in accounting as well as business management. And it was a very last minute decision because I was actually considering economics and actuarial science, but I really had an avid interest in accounting as well. So I thought just to follow my passion and interest, for now, I'll pursue a bachelor's in both accounting and finance. And I made that decision because I thought that accounting and finance, they open a lot of fields in the future. And coming from a family of business people and entrepreneurs, I thought that I would be able to apply all the theoretical knowledge into my family business as well after I grow up. So I thought this would be a good decision.
Yeah, for me, similar to Zaid, I did the IB as well. So it was around the time when you start choosing your courses, and I realized I was quite interested in economics and kind of the field of business. The reason that I chose to study international management or management in specific is because I feel like in comparison to other courses, it's a lot less niche. So it keeps a lot of doors open whilst you get an insight into a lot of different areas of the business world. So that's something that really spoke to me, where I could build upon. Like now I have finance as a pathway because that was what really interested me within my first year. So just getting an insight into the various fields of business and what you can do with them, and then building upon that, what was made me choose this course.
For me, I was basically looking for something versatile because I was still unsure about my future career choices back then. And I felt like management is a great way to basically diversify a little bit in terms of like what you actually want to study, because this course offers you a lot of flexibility in terms of choosing your modules, a lot of non-core modules that you can to pick from. And what's also great is that they are very practical. There is a very great emphasis on the practical implications on the knowledge that you are learning. So basically, I was interested in learning something that actually, will yield me benefits in my future career, as opposed to, I guess, a regular academic degree. So that's why I chose management. And the international bit also, I think it's great, especially in the age of globalization, when firms are putting increasing emphasis on like whether you can navigate well between different cultures, and also the international management offers you a nice priority in choosing your year abroad options in comparison to regular management. But I guess I will get to that in next questions a bit in more depth.
Thank you so much. What a perfect segue. Um, whoa, sorry. But yeah, why did you choose WBS?
Yeah, so I living abroad, I came over to the UK to go check out some universities, and unfortunately didn't get around to looking at them all. But I managed to tour a couple, of which I think Loughborough, Warwick, Exeter were some. And I think just going to all the different business schools, I came to realize how WBS stands out. And when you walk on campus, you realize a lot of it's just kind of the branding and the reputation of the school. And so going there, I kind of realized, yeah, they clearly invest in this course and the school itself. So going into that was definitely interesting because I think it's a huge boost to your career, right? And so that was a main attraction. And then the other attraction was really the courses they offer, taking management. I felt it was a good balance between being quite broad, but as Yusuf touched on earlier, being able to take a pathway such as finance where I could actually really tailor my subjects. And so having that kind of introduction, I think helped me for sure and was part of the reason why I chose it.
I really like WPS because when I started applying to the UK universities, it was COVID time. So I did virtual open days, and I really liked the campus and the course as well. So as Zaid mentioned, that WPS's reputation is quite high, and even accounting and finance and management, both of the courses, they rank quite high in the UK. I think between one and two usually. So that was definitely one of the factors. And I think both the courses, accounting and finance as well as management, they're quite versatile because to me personally, they not only cover modules in accounting and finance, they also touch upon modules related to business law and economics. So I feel like it's a very versatile course because apart from accounting and finance, I can choose other career options as well. So considering all these factors, I thought that WBS would make a great fit for this degree.
Yeah, similarly to the previous answers, I think there's three main reasons that I ended up choosing WBS. Firstly, I really like that it's part of the bigger University of Warwick campus. I think being able to interact with students from other courses and with other interests is really important. And it's a beautiful campus. So, yeah, that was a plus. WBS obviously has a very good reputation, not only in the UK, but also over all of Europe. So when I chose my business school or the business school that I wanted to go to, considering reputation and what people in general maybe when I choose a career later on, what kind of an impression they have of that university is really important. So as Rishul says, it consistently ranks in the top 3 or 4 business schools in the country. That was definitely another factor. And then finally, I think you can always get a bit more of an insight into the culture of any business school or any university through personal contacts you had. So while all business schools in the UK look perfect when you go on the internet site, I had some friends who were at WBS previously, and I was able to kind of ask them questions, get campus tours on FaceTime. And yeah, that was another reason why I decided to go for WBS.
Yeah, I mean, most of the things have already been said, but to add something new, I think also for me, the main reason was that the business school, obviously at work, is very renowned and prestigious. And that basically translates to employers targeting WBS graduates, to look for talent. And that's great because it just makes your life a little bit easier after graduation. But maybe one piece of advice would be to not judge if you want to go to a business school rather than as opposed to a regular university degree, because business school is a separate entity. Look at the prestige and rankings of the business school on its own rather than the whole university, because Warwick Business School is generally a bit more prestigious, I would say, in terms of departments in comparison to some other ones. So for me, it was the story that I nearly went to Bristol actually instead of Warwick. I was already a offer holder there. And the University of Bristol is also great in terms of rankings. But then I went to see the actual business school, and it turns out it wasn't really exist. It didn't actually exist. So it was a big gap. So I'm glad I ended up here. But also another reason why I chose Warwick is because of the focus on innovation. Because I'm personally interested in entrepreneurship and venture capital, and to Warwick Innovation District, and they have all different incentives that basically help young entrepreneurs to excel. They can offer you funding, they can offer you mentorship support, and that's what makes WBS and generally Warwick stand out from the different universities for myself.
What another killer segue. Next question is, what kind of resources or programs targeted towards students in your specific area of study attracted you to WBS? This is a bit of a large question, so I'll put it in the chat too.
Yeah, sure. I think I would definitely say like during the course, you've got obviously all your teaching resources and all these teachers are extremely experienced and that always helps. Um, that's great to have. And I think in the Warwick Business School itself, when you're studying things like business and finance, alongside all the academics, they really look at their careers team and the department. And that's one thing that really stood out to me. They'll support you with things like mock interviews, they'll look at your CV, give you some opportunities that may be on the board, and that's all aligned to what you're studying and your interests. And so having that kind of holistic experience definitely helped being at WBS. And yeah, something I really enjoyed.
I think the careers team is definitely the plus point because WBS has its own careers department, which is separate than the University of Warwick's careers department. And then they provide tailored services, as Zaid mentioned, mock interviews, CV clinics, and everything. And apart from that, they do a lot of events related to the course itself. So, for example, they do a lot of accounting fairs and finance fairs, and they invite a lot of employers from London and other cities down to the Warwick campus. And we get an opportunity to meet them, network with them, to understand what are the future career options we have. So I think that's also definitely the plus point I considered while applying.
Yeah, I agree very much. The careers team has been very helpful, but if I had to say something other than that, a resource or a program that really spoke to me is that there's going to be a society with people interested in the same things as you, whatever you're interested in. If we're talking more in a business scope, for example, let's say you're really interested in entrepreneurship. There's the Work Entrepreneur Society, there's Work Kickstart that really focuses on startups. And so you can meet like-minded people, you can meet people who know a lot more than you and learn from them, and you can kind of transfer these skills with each other. A lot of these societies also have annual events, which are hosted in London at the Shard. So to be able to kind of, I don't want to say compete, but earn that spot and be able to travel to London and kind of experience the event that they're putting on for you and that really speaks to your interest was a really nice plus point for me as well.
Yeah, for me, I think I mentioned that in the previous answer already, but it's crucial that there's plenty of innovation resources, which I valued a lot. Like there is an incubator for startups if you are looking into that. And but yeah, on the top of that, there is a lot of well-being resources actually that hasn't been mentioned that help, students to feel a bit safer and a bit more confident with a lot of stuff going on, obviously, that's happened during university. But also there are plenty of other teams, for example, like student immigration team that can help you out with the visa work and basically getting confident in terms of like getting a preset status, stuff like that. So can get a little bit overwhelming, especially because a lot of the paperwork, but we have plenty of, I mean, WBS has plenty of teams that help you out with that. But also in terms of academic resources, obviously there's plenty. If you do some research, there is access to all the main journals. Really, I haven't really experienced a lack of access to anything I was looking into on the web, which is great. And I know that in other countries, especially in Netherlands, for example, students sometimes have problems with accessing some, prestigious journals because that's very costly. But also, news sources like The Economist, Financial Times, that's all available for students for free here. Even something like AI checks for your CV and more innovative sources, they are all available. So plenty of different opportunities that's available here in terms of the resources.
Thank you so much. I want to especially highlight what you mentioned about the support with visas and like international student logistics, just because a lot of Miller's work is with international students. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Also, sorry about my allergies. I'm going through it a little. Why do you recommend WBS to prospective students?
I'll try not to cover too much to leave some room for the other panelists, but I would say I would say reputation is a large bit. I've already talked about it, but I think when you're using your undergraduate course as a segue into a proper career, I think things like that really matter and how hireable you are. And so that's part of the reputation and how employers know the business school, but also other areas when it comes to things like the alumni network, for example. And I think, whichever students do go really should make use of that using social media like LinkedIn, reaching out to previous alumni. They're always willing to help. And when you have such a large network from years before, you don't know where these people are right now. And, they're always willing to help, as I said, get on a call, talk to them. And it's great for careers. And from that standpoint, yeah, really enjoyed it.
To add on to that, the courses at WBS, they are very practical along with theoretical because they help us to develop those transferable skills that employers are looking for. So, for example, I think in all the WBS courses, every term we have to do a group project with any module, wherein we are divided in a group of 5 to 6 people from different parts of the world, and we're supposed to either write a report, make a video, or anything at all. And I think it helps us to develop our communication skills, teamwork skills, and these are the skills which would highly benefit us after we graduate from any university. And that's one of the plus points which employers look for because, as I mentioned, the reputation is a huge point, and it is actually proven in the UK that WBS graduates are preferred over some other universities by employers. So that's a good point.
Yeah, for me, it's been previously touched upon a little bit, but obviously when you move to university from high school, it's quite a drastic change. So you'll need some time to settle in. But what I found is that a lot of the staff at WBS, they try to make that transition as smooth as possible. They're really cooperative and they do everything they can to kind of feel at home at WBS. But other than that, I think also, as you can see, that my course title includes the international management bit. And then with finance, Rishul and Zay talked about this previously, but about the practicality and how you can really build on your interests. For example, I have friends who I started off at international management or management with, and then they found that they have really different interests in terms of the same in terms of business. So whilst I, for example, like the finance side a lot more, they really liked marketing, or they really liked to learn about business law a lot more than I did. So they were able to build on that, and that makes a really tailored university experience for you in terms of academics. And I feel like not a lot of other universities, even though you can obviously always choose your modules, are able to offer this degree of kind of personalization, which is another reason why I choose WBS.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, my main recommendation, why I chose WBS would be that it offers a very well-balanced blend between, I would say, excelling academically and meeting a lot of ambitious students that want to achieve great things in the future and that are very driven and motivated, and also finding the balance between like studying but also getting involved in external projects outside of lectures. That's, I would say, crucial when you study a subject like business, because employers basically expect you to get that practical experience and show some soft skills abilities such as leadership and stuff like that. So you need to be getting involved in as many external projects. Like, for example, Kickstart was mentioned, and actually, quite funnily, I myself organized the Kickstart Careers Fair 2 years ago at the Shard, and it's a great experience. You can meet a lot of people. You can also network a little bit with your future employers, perhaps. So I would say Warwick Business School stands out here because it offers you so many opportunities like that. Or, for example, we have the biggest in Europe student organized economic summit, which is also a great opportunity to stand out. But yeah, but also on the top of that, I think it's a school that genuinely cares about its students, and you can see it very clearly on your everyday studying. So, for example, you have, like I said, well-being support, but you also have student engagement team that's actively organizing a lot of, like, for example, events for students to network a little bit, meet their teachers as well, which is a great opportunity. Yesterday we had, for example, alpacas coming down to the Warwick Business School to help us relax a little bit in the tough exam period. So plenty of events like that, and it just makes studying so much nicer.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, a little bit of a more straightforward question. What are 3 words you'd use to describe the student body, and why? And what about the professors or other teaching staff?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the student body, as Yusuf touched upon, or someone did earlier, I think when it comes to business school, it is also part of the larger campus. And so you'd have to look at how you kind of separate those or how they join together. So there is what's called the Student Staff Liaison Committee, and that's part of WBS. That's more to help students, obviously, represent the students and communicate with the professors. However, there's obviously the Students' Union, which is the whole of the campus. And so that is what you're going to be interacting more when it comes to sports clubs, societies, and so that's really what I think represents the students more. In terms of how I describe them, I'd probably say they're number one, diverse. They've got so many events going on for so many different people, and they really push that in societies and in what they do. I would also call them inclusive because of that. And I think lastly, lively. There's always something to do. I personally love my societies. I'm a sporty person, so I love volleyball, but I also do things with the band society, and we went on tour over the spring break, and that was great. It's something that you won't get in every university, and so really taking those experiences, I think student body's great. And then last bit quickly, I think about professors and teaching staff. I'd probably say they're just because of their experience, they tend to be quite inspirational. I think they're definitely people that students can look up to. For example, my venture capital modules taught by an or he's a current venture capitalist, and so actually talking to these people about their experiences can be really interesting. And I find it's easy to because they're number two, approachable. So really easy to ask for feedback. And I think number three, just fair, because I think as human beings, they're always there to help you, and they understand your different situations, particularly being university and on your own in the first time. And so in your first year, particularly, they'll be more lenient with certain things, and you just really got to speak to them. But yeah.
I think the student body at WBS is quite collaborative because they try to take our views on board as much as they can. So, for example, they have something called module feedback. So, after completing every module, we do get the opportunity to give feedback to the professors and the module content in general. And the student body and the entire team at WBS, they try to make sure that they are taking some of that feedback on board. And during my 3 years at WBS, I've seen that they try to change the module a bit depending on the feedback from the previous cohort. And even I think every course has 2 to 3 student body members, and I think all the courses have like WhatsApp groups, so they keep texting on the groups. If we have any doubts or concerns, we can contact those student body members and uh, explain our concerns. That if you're finding any module professor not properly teaching or anything at all, so they would escalate our request to the WPS staff, which is quite nice because we do get to present our own views on anything. And in terms of the professors and other teaching staff, everybody is really nice because I think they have weekly, hours in which we can go and discuss our doubts and concerns. So they have their office hours and we just have to drop in. So they are readily available. And they have something called the forum in which if we have any doubts academically, we can even post it on the portal. And the professors, whenever they're free, they can just clear our queries online without having to meet them personally, which is nice.
Yeah, for me, the student body, 3 words. Firstly, I'd say Zaid said diverse. I'll say international to bring some change in. If you want a fun stat, I think it's about 80% of students at WBS are international students. So that's really cool. We talked earlier about working on group projects, and WBS purposely designs group projects to include members from all over the world. So that's really cool to be able to working with people that you might have not worked with previously, and to see the different perspectives or the different approaches they would have to writing a long essay, and you can kind of adapt that to how you would do that personally. Secondly, I'd say intellectual. I feel like every student you meet is going to be smarter than the last person you met, which is really cool because just having that environment around you that always kind of looks for excellence in their academics and strives for the highest. They're all really smart. That kind of pushes you personally to go push your limits as well. And finally, I would say balanced. Although there's a lot of academic excellence and people always trying to get the top grades, that isn't all that WBS is about. Um, Students like to have fun, obviously, as well. It's not all about getting first class, but yeah, in terms of the professors and teaching staff, the experience, I was going to use the example of my venture capital professor as well.
Me
He's what
too.
Simon Barnes, yeah, he's what you call a professor in practice, which means that while he obviously teaches you all he knows, it's not all theory, but he's actually done it. Then I'd say helpful. Professors and teaching staff, I said this before, and I really want to stress this, is that they're really cooperative and they try to make you have the best uni experience possible, because in the end, that's what's going to make you a top student. And I'd also actually say about professors and teaching staff international. It's nice to have people from all over the world. Like I had a Chinese, Indian, and an Egyptian professor alongside my English professor last term. So people from all over the world teaching you is also going to make you more adaptive to what you're being taught, and responsive, and it just brings some change into it, which is really good.
Yeah, for me, definitely, I would say the students are active. Plenty of stuff going on, plenty of external projects that are happening, like the guys have said before. International, obviously, which is a great opportunity to, experience a wide range of different cultures, which actually is super beneficial for the future career. For example, it shows how you can negotiate in the future with across different cultures, and there are some massive differences that you have to, just familiarize yourself with to be successful. So that's a great tool to do that. Also, I would say creative. There is a lot of very innovative ideas coming from the students. There is a lot of societies that were mentioned, for example, work entrepreneurs and so on, that are based on the idea of having novel ideas that sometimes sound a bit crazy, but actually might prove disruptive to a wide array of industries. And that's how you basically the motto of the school, I think, is be a change maker. So you have to take a risk sometimes to achieve great things. And I think a lot of students actually emphasize with the motto. In terms of the professors, I would say they are modern. Definitely, they adopt a wide range of like modern teaching styles rather than a big, rather than just focusing on lectures in front of 100 students. There is plenty of small classes where you have an open discussion with a lecturer, usually case-based, based on real-world scenarios, practical implications. So this modern way of teaching, I think, really pays off and is what sets apart the British generally British high education system in comparison to other European countries. Also, they are definitely experts in their field. They are very inspirational, like my other speakers have said before. But they are also, not afraid to engage and invite with other industry speakers and invite them, for example, to have a guest speaker lecture, which is also a fantastic opportunity. For example, in one of my modules, we had a guest speaker, the CEO of Bayer Leverkusen, the very successful German club that's currently winning every single game they play. And plenty of high end industry speakers during our classes, which is great. And lastly, they are also very engaged in whatever we do at the university. They are engaged in student life. They are engaged in all the different incentives, so student societies. If you want to get their mentorship, their help, their advice, they are always there to help you, support you, and connect you with the right people, which is great.
Thank you so much. A lot of what I'm hearing is that staff is very hands-on, and really intentional about like curating the most positive experience for you, which I hope is comforting for a lot of the international students watching, just because it could be scary to study away from home, especially in a new country. So that really stood out to me. The next question is more about class experience. I know you've talked a lot about like teachers and specific examples, but what was the most memorable class experience you've had and why? And this can be an assignment, a discussion, or a more individualized endeavor.
Yeah, I would say taking a business module, you're educated to learn various different st skills. So it's your technical skills when it comes to, let's say, financial modeling and using Excel and all these different types of softwares, but also how you maybe present, how you work in a group. And so I found in a couple of my classes, actually, they've encouraged things like debates. And so there was one seminar I had where we were debating on basically evaluating a company and looking at the financial position. Are they a good investment? Are they not a good investment? And I think it was really interesting. I mean, it was a 10 a.m. seminar, so everyone was a bit sleepy. But I think having a more engaging discussion I think, brought everyone together. And I think it's easy, especially in university, to feel a little isolated sometimes, especially from the people you're learning with. And so it was that seminar which I really enjoyed, where I got to hear some of what other students' opinions were and actually kind of talk to them for the first time. And so being in meeting other people on your actual course through things like discussions and debates, I've really enjoyed and yeah, stood out to me for sure.
For me, so as I've done a lot of group projects at WBS, one involved coming up with a startup idea and actually building it, making sure that we present how would we go about the funding, the resources, and I think it was really interesting to see how everybody came up with their own ideas on the spot and how we all challenged each other ideas that, oh, is this commercially viable? How would we get the funding for it? So I think that was really intellectually stimulating because everybody presented their diverse opinions, and then at the end of the day, we had to present everything to the entire class. So it was a good discussion as to how different people think and how can we actually come up with something on the spot.
In terms of my most memorable class experience, I'm going to talk about an assignment as well. So it was an essay, but it wasn't just an academic essay where you had to do your own research. It was more of a reflective piece where you kind of talk about your growth throughout the term, throughout the module, based on what you learned. And the reason I really like this assignment is because there were certain prompts that you had to answer throughout. And you kind of also had to present your own entrepreneurial ideas that you've come up with and how you've refined them over the course of the module. So by being able to kind of um, talk a lot, 2,500 words about something that really interested me and why it did, and how maybe I thought that there was some points where I thought that it wouldn't be viable, and then I learned something new and actually, oh, maybe I could do this. But just being able to kind of have this own reflective piece where I take someone throughout my thoughts, my development, and my own interests was my most memorable class experience.
For me, I think it's, as I mentioned in the previous question, it's probably going to be difficult to beat the meeting with the CEO of Bayer Leverkusen for the memorable class experience. But I think it's also important to point out that the range of modules is so diverse. You can literally pick a subject that you wouldn't think you can study in a business school. And my example for this is that I picked a module in my fourth year, the last one this year, called Economics of Wellbeing. And this proves to be a super interesting module as well. And I just finished assignment for it, and I was basically exploring the topic of how whether money basically makes us happy in the real world. And it's super interesting because it turns out that, obviously up to some point it's satisfactory and it does make you a little bit more happy. But crucially, it's mostly dependent on whether you are earning more or less than your peers, rather than the nominal scale of your earnings. So, stuff like this, you wouldn't think you would normally learn in the business school, but there you go, you can, if you are interested in something like that. So that was definitely an interesting experience.
Okay, thank you. Are you currently or have you ever been involved in research at WBS? And what was it like? Was it accessible?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to research, I haven't done so much the professional side of it, but more research on my course, so I can explain a bit from that standpoint. I think we do actually use a lot of the resources that professors use at a PhD level, when it comes to things like databases and, as was touched upon earlier, things like news sources. So when it comes to research, I think it's certainly accessible to students with all the variety. And I think when you do your assignments, things like essays, professors really value a range and diverse range of sources. So yeah, learning how to do things like that. I take a marketing module. It's called marketing research. So we do various forms such as primary research, where we actually interview people. So surveys, interviews, really taking on different kinds. I think it's really interesting, and they do teach you well on how to do it. So yeah, it's really good.
I think very similar to Syed. I haven't done research professionally, and being an accounting and finance student, I haven't had research modules till now. But it's like during our academic writing modules and essays and other reports, we just need to use references from a variety of academic sources, and we just need to make sure that all the different reading materials that the professors are giving, we are going through them and making sure that we are doing some sort of external research to support all our findings. So I think yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, personally, there's not much more I can add on to that. I'm in the same boat as my peers. I haven't done any professional research, but we get a lot of guidance on how to research our own interests or whatever we're writing about. So yeah, that's all I can really say about this.
Yeah, like the guy said, I mean, our course is mostly focused on the practical implications rather than academic research. However, I think I can add a few points because I've got a lot of friends that, get involved in research because that's what they prefer, what they are interested into. So, for example, there is plenty of research abroad opportunities where you can, for example, apply for a contest, submit your research thesis, an abstract, and perhaps get a scholarship to go to China and do your research on the Chinese market. And there is a lot of opportunities like that, a lot of funding available. There is a mobility funding that can refund your travel. There is a touring scheme which you can use, which is basically like Erasmus, but after Brexit, it became a touring scheme funded by the British government. So a lot of mobility funding that can be also beneficial in terms of the research, and also a lot of very cool contests and opportunities. For example, my friend has recently won a contest to present her dissertation research in the parliament, in the British parliament, and now she is going for a lot of different conferences that are invited her to share her research ideas. So definitely, we are not short of different opportunities, just the case of finding them and applying.
Hey, thank you. This one is pretty simple. Do you feel challenged in your classes?
Absolutely. I think it's one of those things at university, you are kind of left on your own, but what you put in is kind of what you get out. And so taking certain modules or choosing certain modules, I do recommend that everyone tries to push themselves in some way. Try to keep a balance and do things you're interested in as well. But I'd say in my case, a lot of them came to the more mathematical ones. Finance, I do have an interest in it, but I also know it can be challenging. And so yeah, certainly do feel challenged at times, where I'm, trying to analyze an Excel spreadsheet to figure out how to, model cash flows, for example. Going into university, you wouldn't think about things like that, but it's what you learn in your courses, and I think it's that's why you're there, right? You're there to learn, try and learn new skills and do it while you can, and make mistakes and talk to professors and yeah, make the most of it. So yeah, certainly I do feel challenged.
I do feel challenged as well. I think university is all about getting out of your comfort zone. As I mentioned, there's a variety of modules, challenging ones and the basic ones as well, and everybody should certainly take some of the challenging ones. So for me personally as well, I've taken some highly mathematical pure finance modules, which requires a lot of Excel and financial modeling. But I feel like these are the skills which we might require in our future career as well. So for example, for banking careers and finance careers, all these things would be highly required. So challenging ourselves right now and then making sure that we are able to push ourselves and learning new things would definitely help us in our future careers.
Yeah, so similarly for me, I do feel quite challenged in my classes. That depends largely, I think, also upon the voluntary or the optional modules that you choose. Like Rishul said, there's the challenging modules and there's more basic modules. But I think that's good because if I had 10 challenging modules, I don't know how healthy that would be, to be fair. But yeah, there's for sure modules like the finance ones, which are more on the mathematical side, which are quite hard. But then there's also, for example, modules where our professor has said that he teaches this at a master's level, as well, just a little bit shorter, so we have a little bit more time, but for sure challenging. Then there's also other core modules that I would say are less challenging, but it doesn't mean that you learn less from them. I just think that the mix is very efficient, and I wouldn't really change it at all.
Yeah, definitely there is a wide range of the degree of challenge, like the level of being challenging in terms of different modules. You can pick some modules that are much easier than other ones. For me personally, the financial modules were more difficult, like the other guys have mentioned. So it's totally, adjustable. It's totally up to you. If you don't feel like you want to be like if you don't feel confident enough, you are free to just take modules that are less challenging, and then you will probably secure a better grade much easier. And also it depends on the assessment format, right? Because some modules are purely essay assessed, and then you don't really have the time pressure, whereas some modules are in-person exams where you obviously have to learn and memorize a lot of different concepts. So really it can be fully tailored to your needs. If you are not the best at memorizing stuff, you can just write a lot and pass in this way. But I also think the challenge comes in, for example, learning new softwares. There are a lot of modules that offer you the opportunity to learn how to use in practice and different softwares that might be useful for the future career, like for example SAP or Tableau. And this might seem a little overwhelming at the beginning, a bit challenging, but then it benefits you quite significantly in your future, and employers really appreciate that you have this experience. But also challenge might come from outside of your classroom, which is not spoken about very frequently. But for me also, it was quite challenging to manage my first team in my society. And at the end of the university, actually, I was managing a team of nearly 60 people, and it has proven to be a massive challenge, to coordinate everyone, to make sure everyone gets involved and stuff like this. So just leadership experience, leadership skills. These are the things that surprisingly can pose a lot of challenge, but it's very useful that you can learn them at the university level, and not in your career where actually you have to pay money on the table and the risk is much higher.
Yeah, if I can just add something onto
Sure.
this. Yeah, it just popped in my mind. In terms of challenging classes, we've previously said before that that's the main reason why we're here. We want to challenge ourselves, we want to push our limits, we want to learn more. And I definitely think that it's really good to choose challenging classes. I've done quite a bit of that. But sometimes I think the other panelists are going to agree with me. But in hindsight, you might at the beginning of a year say, I'm going to challenge myself in every single optional module that I can do. And while I think it's a good mindset to have, to want to challenge yourself and to step out of your comfort zone, you have to be clever and smart with it. I feel like there's always a balance that needs to be struck at the end of the day, for you to not overwork yourself too much and for you to be able to fully commit yourselves to modules that you have 100% interest in. So just striking that balance and not I wouldn't say overestimating yourself, but overworking yourself is really important. And I'd give that advice to every prospective WBS student.
Yeah, striking the balance between assessment methods as well. You don't want to have 8 exams in the summer, but also similarly, you don't want to write 8 essays in January. So it's the best to balance it out and look at it when you make your module selections.
Hey, thank you so much. Yusuf, I think it was so funny that you mentioned you wouldn't change something about WVS, because what is one thing that you would change?
Time to think. Um, I would say personally, and I think this is partly coming out of COVID, I would say it'd be nice to have more face-to-face time. I think nowadays, with a lot of workplaces and even universities, as I say, coming out of COVID, become a lot more flexible with things like learning online and resources that students can use whenever they want. I mean, hence why we're using Zoom today, right? So I think it's definitely great, especially for students who like to have that flexibility and learn at home, but other students were such as me who prefer to learn in person sometimes, and ask questions that way. I think it'd be nice to have some more classes in person. But I think it definitely depends on the student themselves and how they prefer to learn. So it's a bit of a balance in terms of flexibility and yeah, more interactivity, I would say.
That's a tough one. I think everything's quite nice for WBS. One thing would be, I think there should be more revision classes because the exams can be quite stressful over summer. And something else would be, I think WBS can lower the international fees a bit.
Yeah, I mean, two very good points. In terms of the structure that we have for our modules, mostly it's 1 or 2 lectures. If it's 2 lectures, it's usually one in person and one online. And then in addition to that, there's a seminar. So there's 2 to 3 contact hours that you get per week per module. Um, if anything, I would maybe include optional sessions that you can go to if you want to have more contact hours, because different students learn differently. And while some students are okay with 2 or 3 contact hours, others would like to have maybe 5 or 6, and that would boost their learning. So just maybe offering that option, that opportunity I think would be quite helpful.
Yeah, for me, one thing I would change, I know it's not very realistic and it's not very easy for sure, but I would try to make it a little bit more, a little bit more cheaper and accessible for disadvantaged communities. Because still, especially after Brexit, you know, the student fees at the British universities are super high. And also the fact that Warwick is a campus-based university that doesn't have very much because it's outside of a city. So, you know, if you want to do some shopping on campus or have some food on campus, it's actually a bit more expensive than, let's say, in Tesco. But there is a Tesco nearby and Asda, so there is a lot of opportunities to shop around too. Mm, and especially if you compare it to London, you know, the costs here are much lower actually. So, you know, one might say that it's too expensive, but then on the other hand, if you compare it to London and other big metropolis, then it's actually much cheaper.
Thank you. I know it's been alluded to throughout the panel, but Warwick Business School is a part of the larger University of Warwick. So how does WBS fit in academically with the wider school, and like, is there integration across the specialized schools?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. When it comes to certain things like being in your first year, being on campus, you'll find a lot of your classes and lectures will be across campus using other facilities and other departments' facilities. Warwick Business School is only so big and there's plenty of students, right? So I think that's definitely something that's needed. On top of that, when you're choosing your modules, you'll have things like non-WBS modules or I think the non-regular modules. And so I've got some of my friends doing, study abroads and they're going to Spain, for example. But with that, in this year, they're taking a module in Spanish, right? So that's a completely different department, but that interactivity, the accessibility is great. And now they're learning Spanish throughout the year. So doing different things. I mean, I've also heard of students doing the sciences, for example, alongside the WBS course. So plenty of interactivity and you'll often meet other students from other backgrounds. You know, I've got plenty of friends studying other different courses, so it's definitely very interactive in that sense.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think there's a lot of integration because even in the group projects, as WBS students are allowed to take non-WBS modules, for example, economics or other languages, modern languages, even other schools are allowed to have WBS modules because which there's a lot of interaction. And for example, in some of my group projects, I've worked with people who were doing computer science, and they were working in a business school group project, which helped us to think a lot and share diverse opinions. And similarly, there are people who are doing modern languages, who are doing economics, and we all work together within group projects and within the WBS building. So I think there's no isolation, and WBS definitely integrates well within the entire university.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different students from outside of WBS taking WBS modules, but likewise we can choose other modules that's been set up, of course. It fits in really well with the rest of the university. I'd say it's very highly integrated. They previously just said a bit about first year accommodation or accommodation later, but on-campus accommodation. You live with people who study computer science and people who study economics. Um, Especially in first year, I think that gets lower throughout the years, but there's still definitely at the end of it, there's also a lot of, for example, lectures or seminars that you'll have outside of WBS. So, for example, we have a lot in a building called the Oculus, where when I'm walking in, my friends who study philosophy are coming out of the same lecture theater. So, yeah, there's a high degree of integration, and it's not like WBS students are their own species and um, are very isolated. No, I think it works quite well like this.
Yeah, definitely agree with the module integration. You can choose basically a wide range of modules from outside of the business school actually. And this goes both ways. You know, people from outside of the business schools can pick some modules internally. So for example, you might choose to do an economics module from the economics department or a language module, which a lot of people actually do. What I would say is that WBS might sometimes feel a little bit isolated in terms of the benefits that students get from the university. which is a sad true, but it's quite frankly how it is. So basically, you have a wide range of external resources, like like I said, like the research resources, the academic help, the careers, the events that they organize, the alpacas that they bring to school. This is only available to WBS students, and it sometimes starts to have to say to your flatmates, "Oh, you cannot go with me," but it's because it's only for WBS. But other than that, I guess it fits it fits very well. It's very well integrated. Another benefit is that it has a totally separate IT system. Like a platform which students use to everything, basically submit assignments, check their plan schedule, check their schedule, contact with their personal tutor, write on forum to ask some questions. Basically everything you can imagine to want to do as a student, you find on this dedicated my WBS platform, and it's fantastic. Actually, it's one of the best in the world. I've been studying at 3 different private business schools: Bocconi, ESADE, and Warwick, and I have to say that nothing even compares with the IT resources that Warwick has. And I think Warwick is ranked the top in the world in terms of the online MBA, so that just speaks volumes about it. Other departments in the school use Moodle, which is basically an old-fashioned and boring system, whereas we have our own. So yeah, that sets us apart, I would say.
Okay. And to finish, this question is going to be 2 sentences, and it's from one of our students. But what are your relationships like with your professors? Do you have one? Are they vastly different from each other? And do you think your experience is an anomaly or the standard?
I would say I do have different relationships with different professors, and that definitely depends on the module they teach. Um, I think, like I said earlier, it's a situation where the more you put in, the more you get out, because you kind of are independent, right? You're at university. And so you guide your own learning. So I would say certain professors, sorry, I do have close relationships with, especially those I reach out to for support, or I'm really interested in the module and want to ask some questions. But I also wouldn't call that a necessary like anomaly, because I feel like every student will have a professor that they bond really well with or enjoy the teaching style in seminars. And so I think as I said, they're very approachable. It's just up to you to approach them, and I would say make the most of that at any university you go to.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the students because for some students, they feel that independent study is better and they work well with their friends to clear their doubts and queries, while some students feel that they need to professor. So for me personally, yeah, I think it's quite different with every professor. For some modules, I don't feel like I need to engage with the professor a lot, so I can just study it on my own using the material which the professors give. While for some modules, I feel like no, I need to attend the office hours. I need to be in regular touch with them just to see if I'm on the right track for my exams or not. So it's quite nice because they're all quite approachable and collaborative. And as I mentioned earlier, we have, I think, 1 to 2 hours of office hours every week with every professor. So we can go and drop in into their office anytime just to clear our doubts.
Okay. Thank you. I'm so sorry to have to cut us off here, but it is 9 o'clock. We want to be super respectful of your time and thank you for joining us. An extra big thank you because I did hear it's final season, so you guys are definitely rock stars for being here. Um, I really appreciated how candid you were in your responses, and personally, I'm drafting my application to Warwick Business School after this. Um,
Glad to
but
hear it.
yeah. For students,
So
please check out Millie's website for more events like this one and have a fantastic rest of your day.
thank
Thank
you for
you.
having us.